I'm gonna go get a. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm going to try a little bit of lighting change here.
Melissa, I'm not seeing when people are trying to get in, they're not popping up on my screen like they usually.
Really? And you're,
It says I'm the host or a host.
huh,
I'm not helping out with people, that's why.
huh. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I'm listed as the co-host, Melissa. This is Jess, and I don't have people popping on my screen.
Oh wait, here's Sailor.
Do you see Sailor?
I do see
Okay, yeah,
Sailor.
that did pop up.
Huh, that
Okay,
was
maybe
weird.
I was just emitting them faster than you could.
That's probably
get to
it.
it.
You're the fastest emitter in the West.
So is the presentation showing? Is that displayed?
Yes.
You
Okay,
have the welcome.
okay, good.
Yeah.
And you said that we began at 5 o'clock.
Hey,
At fi-
Sailor, good to see you. This is Evelyn.
Hey, good to see you too. Really good to
Hi,
see you.
Sailor.
I've missed you.
Thank you. It's just been one disaster after another.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. Thank you, though. It's good to be back.
Good.
So your work doesn't take you local to our local flooding situation? Or it
Actually,
might?
tomorrow morning it does.
Oh, okay.
We're going to be delivering some emergency supplies over there in the morning. So we just had to wait for the county to do its disaster assessment.
Wow. Is it still running down the road?
You know, I'm not 100% sure, actually, because I haven't been over there. Last night, I was just going down 66 and I just absolutely could not believe the amount of stuff that was on 66, no matter where you were on the sidewalk. I was really
True.
excited to see.
We have a quorum.
Super.
Wonderful. Well, with that quorum, I will call this meeting to order. And I will ask to begin with, if Melissa, if you'll put our agenda up for this evening.
There you
Oh,
go,
yes,
Evelyn.
the pizza.
Thank you.
In
Start
case
with
you're
pizza?
hungry.
Good.
Okay, we've got another person joining. Here's Bernice,
And Liz.
Colin, and Liz.
Yep.
Melissa, do we
Yes.
still need 7 for a quorum, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, there's the agenda for tonight, Brian.
Thank you very much. So let's begin with committee members introducing themselves. I'll start with myself and then I'll just ask you to chime in if you're on the committee instead of my trying to go through the list. So I'm Brian Bates. I've lived out here for close to 40 years. Retired community college science teacher, and this is home. Who's next?
Liz Baldwin, nurse practitioner, lived in Doney Park for 27 years in District 4. Proud to be on the committee from inception. I just want to reach out to the community one more time, not the committee, the community, and say thank you so much for participating with us. And we value your comments and we value your precipitation because we represent you. And I also want to say, if you have sent an email or a phone call, or you did a public comment and you felt like you haven't been heard, please let us know tonight in public comment. Just please reach out to us. We value you.
Thank you, Liz. Next.
This is Dave Browning. Lived in Doney Park now for about 15 years. A retired Navy officer and have lived in a lot of places. And we decided to move here simply because it looks good. We liked it and we've liked it ever since.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, I'll go next. John Ruggles, Planning and Zoning Commissioner for District 2. That's enough.
Thank you, John.
Jim
Jim,
Clifford,
go ahead.
Jim Clifford, District 4 Planning and Zoning Commissioner, work at W.L. Gore, been in Flagstaff for 30 plus years.
Thank you, Jim. Sailor?
Hi, I'm Sailor Caudill. I work for the Red Cross and I'm a local photographer. I've been out here for only 13 years, but long enough to know that this is the best place in the area to live. That's just my opinion.
Evelyn Wani here, District 2. Been in the Flagstaff area 40 some years. That's it.
Thank you, Evelyn. Bernice?
Hi, I'm Bernice Carver. I've been in Doney Park for 42 plus years. I've lived in town a couple of different years, but I always move back out to Doney Park because it's in my blood. And I have been very active in 4-H and Girl Scouts and the horse community and lots of different activities. Worked for W.L. Gore for several years and the school district for many years and the health department for many years. And my favorite was volunteering for different projects and cleanups and just love the forest, love the large lot sizes. I am really concerned about a lot of things, but I guess I'll get a chance to talk about that after
Thank you,
the
Bernice.
introductions.
Thank you. Let me recognize Arena Contreras. Arena is the Executive Assistant to Supervisor Vasquez. Go ahead, Arena.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all the participation and time and effort and having this extra meeting. I know will benefit all of you and help get the plan on where it needs to go. And I will not be able to be here the whole time today. We have some flood stuff that we are going to be attending to this evening out in the sunny side. And you know, if you do know someone who's in that area and needs help and support, we're just asking that people call the actual flood line. And that number is 928-679-8525. My office has received a few concerns, but nothing over the top necessarily. I know we've had a lot of unfortunate areas that have been hit really hard. So that's where today we're going to go out and try and talk to those community members and see what the needs are. So I appreciate all of you, and I'll stop there.
Arena, could you repeat that phone number? I'll just put it in the chat.
I can put it in the chat too.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if you live in the sunny side or know people living there that need help, please go to the chat to get the phone number for help. Jessica Simmons, would you please go through and did we capture all of the people on the committee first?
Yes.
Okay. Jessica, would you please record and share with us all of the community members who have chosen to join us tonight?
Yes, right now I've got William Leroy, John Paxton, Sandra, Sheila Walsh, Doug Meyer, and Daniela and Matt.
And I see Dave Wessel is with us also.
Hey everybody, Julie Lead is here as well.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you,
I didn't know
Julie.
if I should say you and Dave during the members of the public, but yes. Too.
And Brian, Jessica, just to mention that John Paxton is with the County Sheriff's Office.
Oh.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, and I think Rob is joining us right now.
I have.
Rob has joined.
So
Apologize for
Rob,
not
would you
joining us.
go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Rob Wilson. I am the co-chair along with Brian of this great committee and owner of Timberline Firearms. I've lived here in Timberline for 12 years and Flagstaff for 21.
Thank you, Rob. Let me remind everyone that if you're not speaking, to please mute yourself. If you're on the committee and you want to speak, then you can raise your hand or chime in once we're working on the actual policies for this evening. Updates. If I remember correctly, we have an update from Dave Wessel. And Dave, I may be incorrect on this, but I thought you're going to look at the different types of motorcycles or bicycles. That was it, motorized bicycles. And I'm not sure if you're going to give us an update tonight or 2 weeks from now.
Mr. Chair, yeah, so Melissa and Liz and Julie and I met and discussed this, and Julie was kind enough to pull up some information. So I think that there's a point in the review of the policies that would be a good time to bring that up, and I'll let Melissa speak to that.
Yes, and thanks, Brian. We'll talk about that later. We'll probably review that next meeting. If we get to it tonight, then we certainly have that distinction that we can share.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we hit the updates. Do we, Melissa, do we have any other updates?
I don't have any to share. Rob, did you have any?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on. What is our next agenda? Oh, public comment. So we look forward to your public comments. If you're a community member, please remember to unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and you will have 3 minutes. I actually have a clock with the second hand on it now. I would like to mention a couple of things, and that is to be respectful and to share what you need to share about what we are addressing. Try to keep your comments to our policies, if you will. And with that, I'd like to open the floor for comments from the public. I see Mr. Meyer.
Hi, I'm Doug Meyer. I'm I've been in Flagstaff since about 1991 and Doney Park since about 2008. And I just wanted to say thanks to the committee for addressing my points. I've been trying to get them up and talked about for the last few meetings. And I did. And I really appreciate you guys spending that time, especially in the last meeting. It's still, the discussion didn't reach my point. So I started to wonder, that could be my fault, obviously, and it could be just assumptions. And I've started to wonder about assumptions. What are the different assumptions? And I'm starting to infer that perhaps the committee feels that Doney Park is effectively landlocked and that Forest Service land trades and development of state trust lands are basically out of the picture. And if that was the case, then that would explain perhaps the lack of interest in looking at LU2A and B. Because if you're not worried about a big, large developer, then you probably aren't worried about LU2A and B. I'm still worried about it. And I'd like to hear the committee, if that is what the committee feels, that we just don't have to worry about that anymore. From my point of view, LU2A and B are a relic of probably 30 years ago. They're very dangerous and they don't reflect the current feeling of the community as reflected in question 21, which was to not encourage developers of any residential density higher than 1 dwelling per 2.5 acres. So that's it. I appreciate your discussion. I hope you guys can talk about it some more. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Other community member comments? Please raise your hand. Sheila Walsh.
Oh, I was not muted. I'm sorry. Heard me slurping my dinner. I still am not real clear on rural activity centers. I had emailed Mr. McNeely and I never heard back from him about definition of rural activity center. And I still wonder, the 1988 Doney Park, Timberline, and Fernwood area plan, I believe had 2 rural activity centers in it. And then all of a sudden 2001 has up to 7. And I'm just curious how the county assigns and comes up with these rural activity centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Very quickly, those, as you mentioned, those rural activity centers were previously designated prior to this committee. So we inherited them. How they were defined, I do not know, but I assume it was based upon commercial land zoning. Let me go to Danielle, please.
Hey, everybody. First off, we're Daniela and Matthew. We live out in Timberline. We've been here for about, not in Timberline, sorry, in Fernwood. We've been out here for about 8 years now and loving it. And I wanted to say thank you so much to the committee for all your hard work. John, we really appreciate the extra time you took and helping us research our individual case. Thank you for that. And yeah, we just appreciate you guys, all the hours you're putting in. I know it's endless hours of research and reading, and you guys have done such a good job being very careful with your wording and revising all the new policies. So thank you for that. And Matt wanted to know about if there's any spot in the plan where you guys are addressing multimodal transportation on 89 directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. That, if we're addressing it, that will come up tonight. So you're at the right meeting. So Sheila, you still have your hand up. Is that intentional?
No, I'll take it down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do not see anybody else. Any other community members that would like to share? Mr. Leroy.
Forgive me, I need to ask a pre-question. Brian, as the chair of the meeting, can you at some point, either tonight or tomorrow or on an email, let me know why I was cut off twice by Melissa in the last meeting? Was my question determined not to be appropriate, and why? So I'd like to get a response to that. Can you do that now, or would you prefer to do that privately?
I would prefer to do that privately, sir.
Okay, thank you. Brian, secondarily, I brought up, at least 6 questions to Melissa in a variety of emails since January that have never, based on interviews I've had with a variety of committee members, have never been brought before them to be addressed. So at some point, I would like to have someone to speak to about that, just as a housekeeping issue. Brian, you and I specifically talked about 4 or 5 meetings ago about water issues. You agreed that they were of a great concern, yet they have not been addressed in any of these meetings either, sir. Just pointing out a fact. So in addition, we have yet to discuss the language issues that I brought up, as opposed between the language issues shall and should, and or the current iteration, which would be must. Now, John has shared his version of the statutory, which is his impression. John, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, so whatever your word is to describe how you deem that language to be interpreted, I would disagree. I would simply state, for the committee's benefit, that statutory language should be interpreted in plain English unless there's case law to support it being one way or the other. So I would respectfully ask that either someone on this committee or the attorneys representing Coconino County produce some language that interprets the word guide to mean that the stronger affirmative language cannot be used in any area plans, because obviously your interpretation or your impressions of that language are going to infect mine and upwards of 5,000 folks' property rights going forward. And I am speaking for them. much to everybody's chagrin. So Brian, I'm going to take your word. When are you going to get back to me about why I was cut off on the last meeting, this evening or tomorrow, sir?
I would like to talk with Melissa and get more clarification with her and with Rob. I do not want to speak. I do not want to speak on my perception without getting some reference. So I will attempt to do that this evening after our meeting, and then we will.
No, that's okay. Did you hear my questions last week, sir?
I know you said you had 6 questions. And
No. Did you hear my remarks that were cut off, sir?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leroy. Anyone else from the community wishing to make a public comment? Hearing none, Melissa, I will ask you, I can see you're working on your computer. It's up on the screen.
Okay, thank you for telling me.
Well, I know you're working. If we could move on to the next part of our plan for tonight, and that is scheduling an open house discussion, hopefully in September at Cromer Elementary School. And Melissa has put the calendar up there, so if everyone on the committee would grab your personal planning, whether you're using your cell phone or, you know, the old style that I do. Let's look at the month of September and see when we could have a public meeting.
This is Bernice.
Yes.
I would really like to postpone the public hearing because I feel like because of the contacts that I've had from people in the community, that our policies need to be gone over again to make sure that we've included all the comments and all the policies are in line with the majority of the people that answer the surveys. I feel like the committee, and I know I personally have felt rushed to be able to get through the material, and I've not been able to really ask the questions and bring up the issues that I wanted to bring up. And I really don't want to downsize the existing lot sizes from 2.5 and 5 acres to 1 acre. And I feel like there's a lot of information in the policies that needs to be clarified to make sure that we don't have loopholes that will be taken advantage of by unscrupulous developers that want to come up here and make a quick buck and ruin the lives that we've spent decades building out here. I also would like to see us be able to ask questions of the people in the comments so that the committee members could ask a question if they don't feel like they understood the person's comment. Maybe that might help clear up some of the problems we've had communicating with the public. I also think that 3 minutes is not long enough for somebody that's lived out here for decades and paid taxes and contributed to the community. I think that we need more time to go over this. We can't rush it. I really feel like we need a few extra weeks just to cross the T's and dot the I's and really look closely. And maybe have a open house in September or in October if we can get that done. I really don't want to meet every week like we've been meeting, and it's been a drain on myself and others on the committee. And I just want to be able to take the time to read the documents that you sent out. Like we got a document yesterday. And I want to be able to go through it and ask the people, my neighbors that have been contacting me and that I've been talking to and other groups that I belong to in the area. I just want to make sure that we're the heroes of this area plan and that we can set forth what the community wants.
Hey, Bernice.
Thank you, Bernice. Rob,
Brian?
let me respond real quick and then I'll
Okay.
come back to you. First of all, the 1 acre that you spoke of, that's actually in the code. We cannot change that. We are an advisory group. We are writing a document that will guide the planning and zoning and the board of supervisors. This is not a legal document. We are not making code. We are not making decisions that have legal authority. We are making, writing what is an advisory paper, if you will, to the decision makers, that being the planning and zoning and the board of supervisors.
Okay, but even if it's advisory, I still want to take our time and get it so that it reflects the 86%
Okay.
of the people in Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood that want to keep the area rural and country.
So let me ask you if you would then sit down and articulate exactly what it is, you know, which policy, what subsection, what is it that you want to see, so that if we choose to go back to it, and notice I said if we choose, because we have already accepted LU, the land use policies. And
I
if we
feel
do
like
choose, hold on, please. If we do go back to that, then we have what it is you're referencing in writing, which would certainly help us work through that, should that be the decision of the committee.
I think it would be a good idea to go back with all of us on all the policies, because we're not getting the information from the public that has been submitted to some of, on some of it. And we really need to make sure that like from the beginning, we really didn't spend that much time saying, now, does this apply to survey? How does this survey apply to this? And, you know, I just feel like we've been going too fast, especially lately. And I know we're in a hurry to get it done so they can do the parks project, but I just feel like I don't want to rush on this and, you know, have problems later on and have development that we don't want.
Brian?
Okay, thank you. Rob, you please.
Bernice, I hear what sounded like perhaps a whole list of issues that you have, and I respect those and would love to be able to actually address them. But when you read off a list of 5 or 6 or 7 different things, it's difficult, I think, for us as a committee to comprehend what it is your issue. And I think, in fairness to us, we should have a chance to discuss that as a committee and decide where to go forward. And I would think that the idea of an open house is exactly what we need to do. That's the beauty of this process, to ensure that what we have been doing up to this point does meet the needs of our local community. That's the whole intent of the open house. So I guess I would differ with you on the concept of having to basically start over and reevaluate a survey that we've already looked at and I believe has been used to inform our opinions up to this point. An open house is exactly what we need to do next to validate that what we believe is right, or for our community, is the consensus of our community. There's no other way to do that. And us rehashing everything all over again doesn't give us any better result a second time than it did the first time, because we haven't done that open house. We haven't given that open public opportunity for comment. Thanks.
You know, I would like, most people that I talk to haven't even heard of this committee. They haven't even heard that we're doing a new area plan. They're really surprised that they're, well, of course, I was surprised, you know, in 2019, well, I was surprised last year to find out that the whole zoning code for the county had changed. And I never heard of those. And I just want to make sure people are informed and people can be able to participate more. In the beginning of these meetings, we talked about publicizing the meetings in the Arizona Daily Sun. We talked about putting a notice in the Doney Park Water Company. And to my knowledge, I'm the only one that's been listing these meetings on Zoom, not Zoom, nextdoor.com and the Doney Park Facebook page. And I just feel like there's more people that would be interested in this if we could get the word out.
Well, thank you, Bernice. I will say thank you for putting it on Doney Park, Nextdoor and Facebook. I appreciate that. You may well be reaching people we haven't reached. I do think that we've done a pretty good job of trying to contact people, and I forget the number of people that responded on the survey, but it was a significant number. So I think we're getting the message out there. So
But then again, the survey
let me move
wasn't sent
to
everybody.
let me move to other committee members concerning the open house.
This is,
Hold on just a minute, Liz, because I want to reiterate that I agree with Rob. We have a lot of information, and I think that an in-person meeting would be very helpful because it would allow us to have conversations that can go beyond the 3 minutes. So, Liz.
okay, a couple of comments. First of all, if we have this open house and we hear the same objections that we've been hearing along with the public comments, can we readdress then LU area and all these other policies and goals that we're making? So the public comment period in the open house, we can go back and address, correct? We can go back and address it again? Okay, so my question is, that's the whole point. That's why I'm glad we're hearing this, because it seems like we're not answering all the public comments that we've received. I've talked to Melissa about this. I've gotten some tickles in the ear about, well, I wrote this person, they never wrote me back. Well, I never got an opinion from my public comment. I never got an answer clear for me to understand. I think it was Mr. Weedman just tonight said LE2 A and B. I still don't understand it. We're still not addressing it. And it talks about it in survey question 21. I just feel that we're a little bit rushing. It would be great, but I think before we set a date, let's talk about what we do have to talk about. We have to finish transportation. People are still concerned about LU. We have to talk about word usage, should, shall, must, and that's going to take a good, nice time for everyone to understand. We've got to make sure that everyone has done their public comments. I, too, have received complaints about I have not been listened to. I have not been, not me myself, but community members, I have not been addressed questions of concerns. And also, we've got to talk about representation of legal challenges. There's so many things that we're going to say we're going to do, and it just doesn't seem like it gets on the agenda. Like we were talking about word usage, and it didn't get on the agenda, so I tried to get it on, but supposedly it was too late. And I think that I agree. I don't like coming on meetings every week. But I don't think we're going to get all the important issues discussed by September. By mid-September, maybe the end of October, maybe the end of September or October, beginning of October, but I just don't want to rush this. Like, I so believe what Bernice just said. I want to feel proud of these documents and that we really had community input and we listened to them. That's it. Thank you.
Brian, this
Thank you,
is
Liz.
Melissa.
Go ahead.
If I could just interject here a bit. So these are all really important points that everybody is making. I would like to just kind of paint a picture as far as how the open house could work, because open houses, particularly in-person open houses, can be a really effective way to get people together where you can all look at these as a group, discuss them, post comments, and see them as a whole. These virtual meetings have been difficult. We will acknowledge that. It's not easy to actually, see these on a screen and try to have a conversation. So an open house, we are not limited to 1 or 2 open houses. An open house is not a public hearing, obviously. It is an opportunity to get the community together to look at the work that you've done. And you guys have done amazing work already. There are still some questions to be answered. So I just want to put it out there to think of that as a tool and as a different process and a different setting where people can actually get together around big poster boards, look at these, write on them, make comments, and it can actually kind of change the dynamic somewhat. So think of it more as a tool for the committee to use to get people in one room together and hear them in a much easier to communicate setting. We can also have a virtual, an identical information session available virtually to get comments for people that don't want to attend an in-person meeting.
Melissa, this is Liz again. Thank you so much for that. But I always thought a public meeting, open house was more of once you have it set up and this is our plan, then you present it to the public. And so if this is really more of a discussion for outreach of public and people can actually talk to us at this meeting and write down their comments again, because I've been to some public meetings and it seems like it's a presentation. This is what we've decided. This is what we're going to do. We want to explain it to the public. But you're saying
Liz,
input.
this is a
wanna
really
make sure I
good
clear.
distinction. I think open
Thank you.
house versus a public hearing. This is not a public hearing. Public hearing
Mhm.
is that formal presentation to the commission and the board where it's legally noticed, et cetera. This is an open house for the community to give you initial feedback on the work you've done. We will do a large outreach effort, like Bernice was saying. We will, post an
Hopefully.
ad in the paper. We'll do a large mailing. We've already talked to the supervisors about contributing some funds to, create and mail another postcard, a bigger postcard this time that may get people's attention. So there will be a wide public outreach. And
But
so
don't
it
you
isn't,
think,
remember, this is
So-
different than a public hearing.
but don't you think that we should address the questions that we've had appointed to us already before we move on and get more questions at the open house?
Well,
And address the language.
Liz, I think the thing,
Yes.
what we're trying to do here is to get public people, to get our community to come and actually, stand with you next to a description of the transportation, and then let them go back and forth, well, I think that this is a good idea, but I would change how you've written this to something else. Okay, so I want to concur with Melissa that this is actually where people are going to come in and they're going to interact with us. And I think the person-to-person interaction is going to be a lot more productive than waffling, not waffling, but going back and forth on these Zoom meetings.
Hey, Brian.
Correct. And I like that understanding and I understand it more, but I still think we should address the questions that people have already posed that haven't been answered. Like, I can't remember all the names, like Weedman, Mr. Weedman, Welsh, Mr. Will, Leroy. There's just people that have just said we haven't been heard, or maybe they have been heard, but we haven't had the time to answer them till they feel satisfied.
Brian, if I could just read a comment that we got just in the chat.
Okay.
As
Thank you.
community members, we will love an open house to ask more questions and meet in person with the committee in a less contentious setting. So there are members of the community that would appreciate an open house at this stage.
So they're thinking this setup that we're doing now is contentious?
Well, it's a difficult, Zoom virtual is obviously it's not as easy as meeting.
Oh, it's coming up. Okay. Well, I grant that. I just feel like we haven't addressed some of the things that we've been trying to address the last couple of weeks. But I know a lot of it, Melissa, is because you want to get the right people speaking to us and you just don't want to represent the attorneys. I know
Right.
that.
If I could,
Rob, go ahead.
Share a thought here. I have seen both on Facebook and on Nextdoor comments stating that once we get to the open house point, it is too late. It's done and nothing can be changed. So whatever is necessary, we have to stop the open house.
Oh my goodness. See, they must not understand either.
That information is absolutely incorrect, inaccurate, and inflammatory. Because as we have explained here, the whole point of the open house is to improve our ability to interface one-on-one with the general public, take that comment, and then improve our document. So I feel bad for folks that have seen that and believe that to be the case because it is factually inaccurate.
But we still have to answer the comments that have already been addressed to us, and I think some are falling through the cracks. Just
Well,
talking to some people. Okay.
Hold on. There has been
Okay.
so much coming at us, and we haven't been able to answer every question every time.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Hold on.
Yes.
But rushing back to try to plug our fingers into each one of those comments is actually, I think, going to distract us from trying to find a document that we can share at the open house and then get the feedback from other folks who may not be attending these meetings.
Ryan, and if I could also mention that every comment that I have received by email has been forwarded to the committee.
But see, Melissa, correct. But you know what's so funny is when I got those comments, I didn't know we had to address them. I thought you were addressing them. I didn't know. I talked to a woman the other day and she had some comments and I just took it upon myself to call her because I felt like, well, I'm on transportation. But I personally, this whole time, every time you gave us comments, I thought you've been answering these comments and you were just posting them. And so I apologize to the community that I didn't know we were supposed to be answering them.
Actually, most of the comments have been addressed, and
Okay.
few of them were not actually were related to specific property questions. So, you know, that's a separate, those are separate questions that the committee
Okay.
didn't need to really see. You know, there have been the majority of these questions that you've seen have been posted on the screen as we've been doing in the past. So.
But Mr. Whatever, I think it was Weedman, with the LE2 A and B, has someone specifically answered his questions and his concerns? He said he's
I
still
did not see an email from Mr. Weedman.
That was from Doug Myers, I believe.
Oh, Doug Myers. I'm sorry. I couldn't remember the gentleman's name. I'm sorry. I've said Weedman. I couldn't remember his name. I didn't write it down. I just wrote down, he wrote down LE, LU A and B.
Hey,
Okay, I made my point. I just want to make sure we address everyone's concerns because we encourage them to talk.
Let's slow
still
down
would
here
like
for a
to
minute.
Slow down and look at these comments more closely and look at the language more closely. And I feel like I've been rushed to the last, and I would, when we vote on something to approve it, I would like a count of the people that say yay and the people that say nay, because I was so upset at the last meeting that I didn't say anything. So I didn't want to approve what I felt like was rushed through.
Well,
I just
Bernice,
said nay. I'd like to change it if I could.
I don't know about that. I'm not going to make any comment. I don't know about how that would work. Okay. But we have asked for voice vote. And if it's been real close, then we've gone back and, you know, tried to figure out where it was. In the case of the land use, then there was no one that, unless it was you may have objected at the time, but I don't think anybody objected to that language at the time that we adopted that policy.
I just think there's
Now,
some
now
better
keep in
language
mind, keep in mind when I say adopt the policy, I mean adopt it as the draft. I am not talking about the final document.
Right, that'll be by the Board of Supervisors, but we want to make sure this document protects the interests of the people that live in the areas.
I'm talking about the final document that we send to the Board of Supervisors. Okay? So we're still in the draft stage, Bernice. And so I think we can all just kind of calm down and go, yeah, we may need to look at some other things. Well, let's see how that pans out. And I'm not going to make a commitment as to how or when that happens because I don't know.
Well, right now we can't even get the language as far as using shall, should, or must.
Well, okay, let's put that one aside. Because it has been.
I'm putting it aside.
I just slow down here. Okay. I think the point that we're trying to get to now is how do we get a broader base of input from the community? And I anticipate that an open house is going to be a good way to do that. If there are lots of people that are concerned about should, shall, must, whatever, then, you know, we can have part of that discussion. But the county, as I understand it, has said that the county does use the term should. Okay. And so we're following the county's lead so far as I understand it. I'm not making a commitment of the committee. I'm saying that's as far as so far as I understand it, we're following the county's lead.
Hey, Brian, from a bigger picture perspective here, I think there are a couple of remaining contentious issues. That LU1, or excuse me, LU2,
yes,
and this word issue seem to continue to be unresolved to the satisfaction of everyone. And it'll be great if we can get at some point to a document that everyone agrees with, although I suspect that's not likely. But the reality is the best way to get there is with the majority or the maximum public participation. And that would mean these most contentious issues are going to be most likely solved the best by involving more public participation at an event like an open house.
I've always had difficulty at open houses because a lot of times you're presented with so much information that it all becomes jumbled. And you have to be able to read line by line in these policies to make any sense of them. They're difficult for me to read in a room with just the policy in front of me, much less a lot of people milling around with a lot of noise.
So,
and I think that giving people more time to comment on these meetings and for us to be able to ask them questions might be helpful.
So Bernice, it is incumbent upon the individual community member to inform themselves. Right? It's hard to make good comments if you don't have good information. So my response is that the community members, and we will give them as much notice and the links, they have consistently had the access to the documents, to the meeting notes, etc. So it's incumbent upon the community members to inform themselves prior to the open house, or if they come without that information, then to ask questions which help them understand what it is that the document is saying. So with that, I would like to move on. Melissa, I'd like to get feedback from other committee members on the open house schedule. Are we looking at September? What dates? Are there any dates that are proposed? We've been meeting on Thursdays, which I think are good days for us to start with. Are there any suggestions?
I can't make the first week, so any Thursday after that would be great. And I think, you know, the 16th or the 23rd both look like good target dates for me.
Okay, and I personally cannot make the, let me check. I cannot make the 23rd.
Brian and Rob, I would suggest at the end of the month, if you're going
Thank you, Melissa. Perfect.
September 30th?
I'm good with September 30th.
I would say no to September 30th. That's the day after a planning and zoning commission meeting, and this month we're going to have a big load on the commission that evening, so it's going to be a late meeting.
Yeah, Jim Clifford expresses my sentiments on that, and when we're there till midnight, really makes the next day pretty rough.
So can we do it that week, but do it like a different day, like the 28th before or the 27th?
The 28th would work for me. But I do want to point out that both Jim Clifford and John Ruggles are on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think it's very important that they're at the open house.
Well, this is the whole reason why I mentioned maybe doing it at the beginning of the week, because they just said they couldn't make it on the 20th, on the 30th.
which is a good idea, Sailor.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know that I wanted them to be included. That's why I mentioned it.
Thank you.
How about the first week in October?
So is the last week of September off the table then? We hadn't really finished that.
I don't know. Let me hear from other committee members, please.
Brian, I don't know if this will factor into your decision. I have been in touch with Cromer Elementary, and the September calendar was wide open. I'm guessing October is as well, but I did not ask about October.
Okay. So we're into an unknown there.
Right, but my guess is that it would be open. I can certainly check.
Go ahead, Dave.
Now I'm seeing a September calendar here with some things in bold. Is that as a result from the Cromer?
No, that's just it was a snapshot of my calendar, and those are
okay. All right. So yeah. By the way, Thursdays are, other than after 5 o'clock, are really not good for me. I have other committee meetings, and I have Veterans Court and all kinds of things on Thursdays.
And
just
Melissa, I'd just like to comment. It may be that we can't get every committee member in attendance. And
October 14th would be your regular October meeting. That's a Thursday.
Yeah, and I may not be able to. October is going to be crazy, but doesn't mean I have to be there. I thought we ended kind of like in the first weekend. Nobody really answered the question of whether or not the 27th or the 28th, because we said the last week of September might be good. So just know finish that up, like 28th, 27th.
Are we talking about what time of day are we talking about?
Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday?
No,
not Wednesday.
Not Wednesday?
Evening, afternoon, all day, what?
Well, that's up to the committee. Often we have these in the evening, so people that are working can stop by.
So something like 5 to 8 p.m., 5 to 9 p.m., something like that, Melissa?
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we'll have it available virtually as well.
Right.
So the 29th would be the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. So we don't want to schedule it for that day.
Yeah, so 27, 28. Anybody interested in those dates?
I like it.
I'd go along with the 27th or 28th.
Okay. Other
It'll
committee
work
members?
for me. It'll work for me.
Thank you, Jim.
This is Evelyn. It'll work for me.
Yeah, this is Dave. The 28th could be iffy, but it looks like it would work. I have Veterans Court, and if I get into stuff after that, it gets a problem. But I think I could make it work. I've made it work all along. So, in terms of our meeting.
Okay. Liz, what about you?
Well, if we get through all the things we need to talk about before the open house, like language and that answered the questions from everyone, sure, the 28th could work for me.
Okay. Thank you. Any other committee members?
I think that as long as we can work through these issues again and get answers and get more input from the community and advertise what we're doing more to the with the community, I think it would be okay. And are we going to have another open house once we finalize the document, or is this going to be the final document that we present to the Board of Supervisors? That's going
I think
to be
it's
presented?
undecided, Bernice. We're planning on doing a virtual one, but do we need to do a second one? I think that is something that the committee can discuss.
Okay, do we need to do, will we make revisions to our plan based on the comments that we get from the open houses? And then we might present a final that we're going to send to the Board of Supervisors?
That is, I think that's a good idea.
I do.
But I'm not going to speak.
Brian,
for
that's
the
generally
committee.
what we've done in the past. Yes. And so will be comments that will be submitted during the open house, and you all will then meet again and review those.
Okay.
And then we'll make a
And-
change to the document,
Mhm.
and that will be our final draft. But having an open house to present that would only, it would turn into an endless loop there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would we take input and then review that and then modify it again and then have another open house and then take input and then review it?
And then we'll have a chance to go, really look at the survey. Because in the beginning of making these policies, I didn't feel like we were, some of the policies are not in line with what the results of the survey. And that's a huge amount. And I
So,
wish we were.
Bernice, what I'd like for you to do is go back and document where you think that is, or where you have seen that, or where you have perceived that. Because
Okay.
that would then be helpful in the conversation.
Okay, I'll need more time to do that then. So I don't want to be rushed.
Okay.
I can't be meeting every week a couple of times, I can't go over all the documents that I feel are so important and be able to understand them.
That's a good point. I hear you. So we will work in that direction.
Just one point of clarification for everyone. The final document from us does not go to the Board of Supervisors. It goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission first, and the P&Z Commission makes a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors based on comments that are presented at the P&Z hearing. That's another opportunity to present some of those comments.
Thanks for that clarification, John. I was not aware of that.
Yep, that's how it works. That's the process.
Thank
So
you.
our document goes to the P&Z and then the P&Z can change it before
Yes.
it goes to the board?
That is exactly it. You can come to the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. If there are a lot of people there, you'll fill out a card to speak. You get 3 minutes, and P&Z Commission will listen to your comments, and we'll see where it goes there based on the discussion that the commission has.
And Bernice, that same opportunity exists at the county supervisors meeting when they review that document before they approve it using a resolution. There's plenty of opportunity for continued public engagement after we submit our draft to them.
I just want our draft to be the best that it can be and be something that will protect our neighborhoods and all the rural activities that we have out here.
Good point. So with that, I'm going to suggest that we accept September 28th as our meeting date, our open house date. Tentatively, well, let's just say it is at Cromer Elementary, and I'm proposing 5 to 8 p.m. Is that acceptable to the committee?
Absolutely.
Works for me.
Works for me.
Yes.
Okay, so Melissa, if you'll record that we've chosen September 28th, 5 to 8 o'clock at Cromer School. Then if we can move on at Bernice's suggestion, we're going to review our draft vision statements first, and then we'll get into transportation. So Melissa, will you take us through the draft visions, please?
Here's the draft vision for transportation. The transportation system in Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood integrates and connects multimodal facilities for transit, pedestrian, bicycle, and equestrian users throughout and beyond the planning area. Our future envisions transportation corridors that are safe and accessible for wildlife, motorists, and all non-motorized users. Enhanced opportunities for transit and commuter options are possible at key locations throughout the planning area.
I like it.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee on the draft vision?
Melissa, just a quick point from Liz. Because we're using active transportation, that's a subtitle under multimodal, so we don't really have to put that in our vision, do we? Even though it's a very new buzzword and we're using it often in our policy and goals, active transportation, should we leave it out because it's under multimodal, correct?
Well, remember at the discussion, it's actually a different type of facility. multimodal includes transit. So that would be.
Right,
a
but I mean,
question.
it's a submodal, it's a subtitle because it's really just self-powered. Maybe we should go back to this after we go over tonight's presentation.
Okay.
Liz,
Okay,
I think
thank
we
you.
just need to make sure to include it in the glossary so that everyone understands.
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay,
Exactly. Thank you, Rob.
I
well, let's
thought
Okay.
just, yeah, we'll address it again.
I thought it
Let's
read,
move on to any other comments from the committee.
yeah, I thought
Let's
it read,
move on to the policies, please. Melissa?
Dave Browning had something.
Right, yeah, Dave had something to say.
I just said I really liked it the way it is, and I think that it's helps clarify for people who might not go to the glossary.
Thank you, Dave. Melissa, let's move on to the policies.
Did they share?
Yes.
Did it appear?
Yes.
Yes, it has.
Make it larger though. Keep going. Keep going. There we go. That's perfect.
Okay. Brian, so where you left off last time, I don't know if you recall, I'm going to move this to a different screen. Hopefully it will be larger for everybody then.
I think it was around.
So we
TC5.
finished at what was then number 8, but then the direction from the committee to Liz, and with the help of Dave Wessel, and we also got some help from Julie Lead, was that there be some reformatting and revisiting. So this has been reformatted, and some of these policies broken into sub policies for clarity. So I don't know if you wanted to briefly look through these again. The language hasn't changed, but the format has, and then pick back up here at 8.
I would like to read through, or you can read through it, because we did add some clarification. And I think if we start at TC5 and read it, it kind of gets us in the mode to collect the rest of them, because the 5 is kind of continuous. So could we start at TC5 maybe?
Sure.
think
And there's
that's a
the
good idea.
goal up here. This is the roadway system goal.
Can you scroll up, please, Melissa?
Did that appear? Here's the roadway
No.
system.
Your tool box is on and we can't see it.
Do you not see the document at all?
We see the document.
We
We
don't see all of
don't
it.
see the goals.
I'm going to stop this and share again. I apologize. Okay, how about now?
Roadway system goal.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the goal that these are nested under.
So would you read that, please, Melissa?
A safe and efficient arterial and collector roadway system facilitates the movement of vehicles and accommodates multimodal travel throughout Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood, while maintaining the rural character of the area.
Yeah.
Any committee comments on the goal?
No.
Hearing none, let's go on to TC4. Any comments on TC4? Hearing none, let's move to TC5.
I didn't.
County
I
should
thought we'd gotten to 8.
Liz had
We wanted to
requested
start it, yeah,
going back
Okay.
through because these were,
connected. They're connected and they're changed. They're reformatted, but they're changed too a little bit to add more information. So can we start at TC5?
yes.
Yes.
I have a slight concern here. If
Yes.
I
we
have
as
a
the
comment
committee
on
have reviewed a document
TC4.
and agreed to the wording as a committee, it shouldn't change.
Oh, no, what happened was last week, the committee asked Dave and I and Melissa to reword it. It was very wordy. One of the ones, TC8 and TC9. And so we redid it and we evaluated things and just changed things around a little bit so it's more clear. You asked us to do that last week.
My
The committee asked us, yeah.
My understanding was we asked that you come back to this meeting with a way to
Clearer.
improve that. not to independently change information that had already been approved by the committee.
I didn't think we approved it.
This is Dave Wessel, and I don't think we changed anything in 4 or 5. I think Liz is just asking to
Or 6.
start there for context.
Right, and then the A and B, the formatting has shifted because it was too much of a run-on sentence. So the A and B was added.
Right.
Again, I don't think this document should change after the committee has voted on it, unless it's done by the committee as a whole again. That's just my personal perspective.
My understanding here, Rob, is that we were reading through this to kind of get the context, not for us to re-edit it. That was my understanding.
Well, if they've changed it, we need to,
We will. I wanted to start at TC5 because it kind of blends in with the one that the committee asked us to work on, PC8 and TC9. It was kind of a word cluster, a word mess up. And it was too many words and there were flowing sentences that didn't come together and it was too long of sentences. That's what it was. And I just wanted to start at TC5 because it was clear and it kind of started everyone in the same mode, starting at TC5. But it wasn't TC5 we worked on.
But Melissa just said she changed TC5, right?
The format. But let's look at it, maybe. I don't know.
Here's the format. This was done on the 8th.
Okay, so the county should improve the safety of area residents by initiating a study that evaluates the operations of the existing and future collector road system, and B, provides for emergency evacuation. I remember that one because that's what I had proposed, was breaking it out.
That works good.
Okay. TC6, the county should disseminate the results of emergency evacuation planning studies to area plan residents. And Dave, I think you were the one that brought that one up.
And also Harriet did too. Harriet said that she wished she had more information on the evacuation in her area.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
That's TC7. Now, did we approve TC7? The functional classification of arterial, collector, and local roads should be determined based upon.
Sorry. There we go.
That's okay.
I'm really confused because I printed off 2 different copies of this. And I'm wondering which one is the most current. Is it the one that lists the A and B, or is it the one that has A and B written in the sentence?
No, the one that lists, like, as you see it right now, Bernice, the one that has them on separate lines.
Okay, so that's the good one. Thank you.
Okay.
So the wording did not change on these. The lines were added. Rob, it's a formatting change.
So now we go to TC8. All right. I believe this is where we begin editing. Is that correct?
That's right.
Melissa?
This is where it ended. So it ended on TC9. This was the one, TC9 and 8 were worked on this week, and TC9 was formerly 8, and it's just been rearranged. So, and then 9 had these sub bullets, and this was the one that the committee requested be revised and reviewed again tonight.
I have a question about TC8. It's that the master plan to inform how the existing road system should be designed. You don't design something that exists.
Maybe future road systems should be designed. Thank you. Future, correct?
I would suggest it just be road system.
Oh, road system. Okay. Because we can fix existing and we can fix existing for active transportation. Okay. And I think it behooves everyone in the committee to read and understand, because it was a new buzzword for me, active transportation, which is the definition is to the right.
Can you see the whole definition, the whole sidebar there? Okay.
There we can. Now we can, Melissa. Thank you.
So if the committee members would read the active transportation definition for themselves, and then read TC9 as well.
Brian, do we have anybody on a cell phone in the, or Jessica? If
Thank
we
you
have
for
anybody
bringing
on
that
a
up.
cell phone, it needs to be read.
You are correct. I do not see anybody on a cell phone.
It's hard to read. I couldn't read it unless I had a printout. There's no way I can see that screen even with my.
So just somebody, do you want me to read it? I'll read it.
Okay, Liz, let me read it, please.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll begin with active transportation is a means of getting around that is non-motorized and is primarily powered by human energy, walking and biking, or by equestrian power. It says also discuss how trails and paths are described in relation to active transport in the text, transportation in the text. So that's a reminder to go back to trail and paths.
Yes, there's a big distinction between trail and path, which we want to get clear.
So the active transportation model plan should be flexible and include customized cross sections that are supported by area residents.
What is a cross section?
That's exactly what I was going to ask because I don't know.
The appearance of the path, the width, the height, the material that's on it, the base underneath it.
And is that something that is commonly understood within the transportation sector such that P&Z and others would understand it?
John, would you understand cross-section?
You're muted. John, you're muted.
Okay, yes, I don't see much of a problem with that, especially at the level of something like the Planning and Zoning Commission, because if there is a question about that, the county engineer or his representative can be there. Public Works can answer that. And when you consider the number of people involved in construction and contracting, there's adequate expertise to evaluate what cross-section means.
I would suggest, though, that even if that expertise exists within the county process, we're trying to write this in plain language for the average resident to be able to understand. So if we're going to use cross-section here, we need to make sure to include that in the glossary, or we should rephrase this to make it plain English.
Okay, if you do something like put it in the glossary, where there is doubt about what it actually means, usually what is done is to put an illustration of what that cross section is. And the design manual that Public Works uses, or any other road building or trail building agency, has those available, and something like that could be included in the glossary quite easily, I think.
Good idea.
Good.
I agree. Let's put cross-section in the glossary.
With an illustration.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, may I move on, Melissa?
I'll make a note right now.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa put an illustration. They asked for a glossary and also an illustration. Yeah. That's
And-
good because I knew what it was, and that's good that they need an illustration.
Just a note for Melissa, I think that any of the documentation for the FUTS system or the multimodal plan from 2011 may have some of those illustrations, if I remember.
They do, but they don't put always the substrate of what they're going to make the path, and they do the width, and they do relationships to other paths, but I don't think they do the actual foundation of the path. You know, like, is it conglomerate? Is it sand? Da 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 da.
But that's going to vary tremendously depending on
Okay.
what text you develop. I think something.
Right. Yeah, I just said that's, yeah, I just looked at multimodal and there is illustrations in there.
Okay. TC9, subsection B, meet the overall goals and policies of the area plan. It's pretty straightforward.
What?
Excuse me, Dave?
I'm on TC9D.
Oh, I was on letter B as in
Oh,
Brian.
He is in boy. Oh, never mind. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. Fine.
Letter C as in Calvin.
Yep.
Be adopted as standards into the engineering, design, and construction manual. Letter D, evaluate evolving electrical mobility technology.
I would really suggest that we make that a longer thing and say evaluate the impact of evolving electric mobility technology on existing and planned changes to the road system.
I like that.
Yep, Dave has it pegged correctly. I think that's a good suggestion.
Because we were just trying to say something about electric mobility or the electric bikes, just because they're getting to be such a problem in town. And I know it's eventually coming out here. So that's why Dave said it's a good idea to add it.
Dave, I think you struck the bullseye.
Yep, that's a very good reason to have that in here.
Ryan, I hate to do it, but looking at C again.
Go ahead.
Can we're asking, or we're basically directing something here. We're saying, conduct a study and then take the results of that study and make it a standard in the engineering design construction manual. I don't know how the engineering design construction manual changes are managed, but I wouldn't guess that an area plan is authoritative to do that.
Rob, you're absolutely right. We've gone over this with Public Works at the Planning and Zoning Commission in the past. This, I think, you mean to refer to the county engineering design and construction manual.
Yeah.
Dave Wessel, is that what you mean, Mr. Wessel?
Yeah, and you know, Rob, thank you, Liz. And Rob makes the point correctly. This should not be I mean, it should inform standards in the engineering design. It shouldn't be. You're writing a plan. You're not writing standards. But I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that.
So go ahead and delete that, Melissa, and substitute inform standards. Inform standards. That doesn't make sense.
I don't understand that.
Melissa,
The
would you
development
take
of
it
standards.
the way it was?
Inform the development of standards in the engineering construction manual.
Okay.
So does that just mean, I don't know, Dave said put this in, Mr. Wessel said put this in. So that's just saying we have to get their permission? We inform the development standards?
No, what that means.
What does that mean?
What that means is, if you have a plan, let's say your land use plan, and then you develop zoning, that zoning is meant to implement the land use plan. Just like when you develop an active transportation plan, your engineering standards should implement that. And so the plan informs the development of the standards.
Okay, it informs it what we want in this active transportation. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dave, do you have an engineering standard for paths in the county engineering design and construction manual?
We do not, Jim.
Okay.
This document, I think, doesn't it, Melissa? We're going to use the standards of the forest system until we get our own standards, correct?
It's one of the suggested policies.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
Okay.
Evelyn. I have a weird question. I'm just.
Go ahead, Evelyn.
Dave Wessel, what did you just say about C? You said something about you just said something about when you said the inform the development standards, and then you explained something. What was that?
So TC9 says the active transportation master plan should inform the development of standards for engineering, design, and construction manual. And if you want to clarify that, you could, I don't think it needs clarification. It's,
No, that, I think that's what I need.
yeah. And so the example I gave, or the analogy I gave, was if you're doing a land use plan, then your zoning code needs to be directed by the plan. You don't develop zoning code regulations that are contrary to what's said in the plan. If you develop a new plan and you now have zoning codes that are contrary to it, then you should be changing your zoning codes.
Okay, so now, okay, if the way I understand that, I'm kind of looking at the whole land use thing. What we're doing in land use, along with what you just said, with the planning and zoning that already exists. So I don't know if I'm totally confused here, but what you're saying is the engineering design and all that is already set. So we have to kind of follow what it says?
No, I'm sorry, you've kind of got that backwards. I'm saying there is set standards. And in this case, there are no trail standards. So it's kind of somewhat of a moot point. There's set standards, but if you change the plan, then the standards should change to reflect the plan.
So, okay, I'm looking at land use, planning and zoning, and our land use policies and all that. I guess I'm starting to kind of see a parallel here, and I'm wondering if I'm just totally off and totally don't understand what I'm saying or what, but we've got some land use policies and stuff going on, and planning and zoning has their rules and everything and their standards, and we're trying to I think I'm confusing myself. We've got our land use policy thing going on. Planning and zoning already has theirs all set. We're trying to make what we're making fit into this planning and zoning. Does anybody understand where I'm going with this?
I think you maybe are confused. So you are making a recommendation to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning make a recommendation to the board, as was stated earlier. And if the board adopts the plan, and the plan has land use policies that in order for them to work, to be put into place, you need to change your zoning rules, then you should go and change your zoning rules. And that goes back to the planning commission and then back to the board. But that's the process. It's you get the policy set, and then you change the rules to implement the policy. There's always going to be some legal questions that you'd have to be sure to comply with. But, you know, elections matter, votes matter, leadership changes, policies change. And when policies change, rules should change. So you're in the process of changing policy.
Dave,
Does that help?
could I take a swing at this? I think if we explained how this would work in reality, if we conducted this active transportation master plan study and the majority of the people in Doney Park said, we want cinder trails and that's all we want. Well, that would then be defined in that study. And what we're asking with this item is that that cinder trail definition be used to inform updates to the county standards so that that's what could be done here in Doney Park. Is that correct, Dave?
Great example. Thank you.
So Dave, I have a question. Do we need to include county?
Brian, before you do that, look, Evelyn, did that answer your question? I'm sorry, Dave, or Brian. I just want to make sure Evelyn understood.
Well, it just kind of, I guess I'm trying to think of the land use thing and where we are with that and where planning and zoning is already. So kind of the way I'm mixing it up, I guess. Maybe I need to talk to somebody about this. It just seems like, well, then if we make a policy, then planning and zoning has to change.
No, isn't it that we're advising? We are advisory, right? So we're advising the new update of what this area wants, right? So the planning and zoning has their rules and regulations, but then we're advising them, hey, things have changed. We did a survey. We're doing this new update area plan. This is what we advise, right?
So let me, if I may,
Go ahead, Dave.
to follow Rob's example on the land use side. Let's say there was a land use policy that said, to enhance our rural character, all houses should be set as far back on the property as possible. And that became official policy adopted by the Board of Supervisors. Then you would look at your zoning regulations and say, oh, the front setbacks ought to go from 20 feet to 50 feet. And then you make a zoning regulation change so that you can now implement that policy of having, large setbacks. But it should be, that rule change should follow that policy development.
Does it? It doesn't have to though, does it? Because we're just advisory. It doesn't have to follow that policy.
If the board adopts it, because you're advising planning and zoning, which is going to make a recommendation to the county, and if it becomes county policy, and this is where I may be out, stepping out of bounds here, because I'm not, I don't work for the county, but if it's county land use policy, then they ought to be looking at regulations to enforce that policy. So our area plans, Melissa, our area plans essentially amendments to your comprehensive plan? And
they are. And I just wanted to point out too, with this active transportation master plan, this would be a suggestion, like Dave is saying, and as Rob also illustrated. So this would be it's an idea for the community to think about, is having an active transportation master plan something that is good for the community. And remember, look at the definition of active transportation. It's non-motorized. It's a way of getting around that's non-motorized. And it's also, for this area or by equestrian power. So there's not such a plan. The closest thing that Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood has right now is the multimodal plan from 2011, which is pretty well outdated. And multimodal includes the transit mobility as well. So this is a new idea for the community. And if this seems like a good idea, if the community wants an active transportation master plan, this would be a suggestion to the county to initiate a study like that. And these would be, some of the desired outcomes essentially of that. And then what this number TC9C is basically pointing to is that the active transportation master plan should inform development of standards for the EDCM, or the engineering, design, and construction manual, because that's the manual that gets pulled out when roads are built, for example. So I don't know if that helps any, but it's the kind of bigger picture here is that this seems to be something that could be important to the community to have available as a reference.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I think Melissa is absolutely right. It is a reference. It is an aspiration. And that is the kind of thing that drives future changes. And like the example Dave Wessel used, that's the kind of thing that drives a lot of changes in what the county does. It applies to things like planning and zoning. You've got an aspirational statement here. And when it comes time, or if it becomes a regular thing in updating things like planning and zoning, land use, how subdivisions are done, how development is done, then this is the kind of thing that drives that.
That's a good clarification there, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to any other comment on C. I think it's pretty clear at this point, but anybody else? Any other committee member? Let's go to D. Evaluate the impact. Oh, we covered this. This was Dave Browning's suggestion. Any comment on letter D as in dog? Let's go to letter E. The active transportation master plan should accommodate the safe movement of active transportation system users, such as pedestrians, bicyclists, and equestrians. Such trails will follow the design standards and permit requirements of ADOT and other permitting agencies. Questions or comments?
Yes, can I ask the committee and Melissa, in this one, since we have not stated yet that our standards are going to be based on the Forest Service, that comes later, or did we already say it? No, we haven't come to it yet. Should we clarify design standards, permit requires ADOT and permitting agencies, which would be the Forest Service, which that's going to be our standards till this area makes a standard for trails? Or is that pretty clear to everybody? Just permitting agencies, like i.e. Forest Service?
Well, that covers all the bases, I think. with
You think
that
so?
General statement.
Okay. Okay.
Well, if we call out specifically ADOT, why wouldn't we call out specifically the Forest Service?
Oh, okay, there you go.
Those are really the only two that are going to apply, at least to start.
To start with, yep, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you might just change that to relevant permitting agencies because as was mentioned earlier, you know, there's interest in having facilities in ADOT right of way. There's interested in having trails in the forest. So,
Or you could just simply say all other agencies are all agencies, all permitting agencies.
But Rob mentioned a good point. He said if we're specific with ADOT, don't put ADOT. Okay, relevant. Okay, because I was saying if we're going to put ADOT, we should put specific our other reference.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's
Using
a
a
good amendment.
general statement
would
that
that include-
covers all of them.
Would that include state land? The way John
If
said.
the state
Well-
land, if state land was an owner,
I don't think we have any state land that borders the boundaries of the Doney Park area plan.
Well, we have state land within the area plan that is around the Turkey Hills area.
Is it state land? That's right. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, what about that?
So
So does
The
the
only-
state have a standard for trails?
good question.
Well, if they do, then they're a relevant permitting agency.
So yeah, so this
Yeah.
covers it regardless if they
covers
do or don't. So
Never covered.
Thank you, Dave.
let's move on to TC 10.
And there was a suggestion that this be modified. Such trails will follow best practices instead of design standards.
Best practices. I don't know.
I like that.
what is a best practice and where did that suggestion come from?
It was in the chat from Julie, and I'm just reading the chat here.
Well, here's something to think about. If the county does not have design standards, then why not say best practice while the county develops its own standards, which may be different from those that are already existing? I think that may be the reason for a statement like that.
Well, Julie's here representing the county, right?
Hi, Rob. Yes, I'm here.
So could you help us understand your suggestion?
Absolutely. So a lot of times we will follow guidelines and recommendations from maybe national organizations or state organizations, but they are not necessarily permitting agencies. For example, one of the documents that we look at when, as an engineer, when we are designing trails and pathways is what we call AASHTO. American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. Anyway, it's a mouthful. And they provide guidelines that we follow, and then we can adjust according to any sort of local regulations or unique conditions or circumstances. So when we say best practices, that usually means that gives engineers a little bit more flexibility to look at guidelines, other standards, but not necessarily through a permitting agency.
Yeah, and that's why I'm in favor of best practices. I've been in that boat before, so I understand.
If I could suggest to use the word design standards or best practices.
Yeah.
You don't want to, we've had lots and lots of conversations with County Public Works about maintenance costs, and best practice would not be a wide shoulder necessarily for pedestrians, but that might be what you can afford and what works.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a very good point. I'll go along with that.
I agree. And Julie, thank you for your explanation. Okay, are we in agreement on letter E, committee members?
I have a question about the design standards. Don't they just apply to the specific national transportation funds?
I don't know. Dave or Julie, could you help us out here?
Do they apply to the federal dollars that we get for national transportation
Well,
funds?
let me ask this. How's that relevant to this policy? How do you see it playing into the policy, Bernice?
Well, I'm just saying that don't we have to meet their requirements in order to get the funds? So do all these meet the?
Yes, because the federal government would be a relevant permitting agency.
Okay, there you go.
So,
Thank you.
And I think you are covered by that statement, but you're right. If you get federal funds, you'll have to comply with Americans with Disabilities Act, for instance, as one example. And so you may have to pave that particular trail, depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the language covers it.
Okay, so we've agreed on TC9, adopted it, and we go on to TC10. The county should seek funding and community input to update the 2011 Doney Park multimodal study. Comments from the committee? Dave says good. Any other comments from the committee? Okay, TC10 is adopted. TC11, active transport systems and multimodal improvements should be concentrated and prioritized for access to activity centers. Comments or concerns from the committee members?
Do we want to include not just activity centers, but outlying areas? I just caught that, like this active transportation, but really maybe the multimodal to connect to the Futz Trail. So that would be outlying areas, or just do we want to stick to activity centers? Because do we want?
That's something we should be access to activity centers or other, something's.
Outlying areas or?
Yeah, I might point out before you get into wordsmithing that too much. This is under the road goal. So what your active transportation system and multimodal improvements on your roads.
Okay.
And I don't know if that changes your thoughts on that.
But the thing is,
put it back in context.
Okay, it is onto roads, but we want our roads to connect to the Futz so we can connect to Futz. And so we've got to make sure that these multimodal improvements that are on the Forest Service slide on the west side connect to that Futz Trail, and multimodal is going over there with the Forest Service, or they're putting it up for bid.
Again, this is not saying don't connect to those. It's just saying where should your priorities be? And if you disagree with that priority statement, then yeah, maybe you want to change it or just strike it altogether. But if you're trying to get people to access the goods and services at the activity centers.
Oh.
One of which is Cromer School. You know, is this where you want to focus your priorities so that you're having these multimodal and active transportation systems leading to your activity centers?
I'd like
So,
in that
go
case,
ahead, Dave.
I'd like to see it just concentrated, taken out. Should be
Concentrated what, Dave?
Just remove
What?
it. Remove it.
Okay. Should be okay.
Should be prioritized for access to the activity centers. You don't have to tell them how to prioritize.
But I'd like it to do to outreach areas too, Dave, don't you think?
Well,
Like to the Futz Trail or to Sandy Seep or all these other things, not just activity centers.
So,
Because they
hold on, Liz.
Okay.
Everything. We can only prioritize to certain things. I mean, we've got to prioritize the activity centers or someplace else or any place else.
Or
But I don't want
other transportation center hubs or other transportation hubs.
I just say not just the activity centers. I don't want all the bike trails to go to Peakview or all of them go to Silver Saddle Store. I wanted to connect to the community.
Liz, remember, this
Yeah.
is, as Dave pointed out, this is roads. We're talking about roads here.
I know, but I still want the roads to go towards town, not just go to our activity centers.
Okay, that's why I suggested other connect to other transportation hubs or other transportation facilities.
What do you think, Dave? Is that okay? And other transportation systems. Oh, I like that. I don't know who put the systems, but other transportation systems, yes.
Okay.
Activity centers are fine, but other transportation systems. Because the bus stops at, at Snowflake. Okay, good.
All right. Other committee members on TC 11, any comment?
No, I think Liz did a great job with that one.
Thank you.
Okay, TC 11 is adopted. I'm going to ask Melissa real quickly. It is now 20 minutes till 8. I think we originally agreed to go from 6 until 8. Is that accurate?
That's right.
So we still have community and committee comments.
Correct.
Do we want to push on?
No.
You know, let's see.
Would the committee like to continue, or does the committee?
I think
It
we
gets
should hold
pretty-
to the 8 o'clock goal. And in order to do that, I don't think we can continue.
Yeah, because trails gets pretty thick.
Okay. So comments from other committee members on whether to continue or whether to begin to wrap it up? Because I have a homework assignment for you if we wrap up.
Begin to wrap up.
Wrap up.
And
Okay.
I printed this out and it was 7 pages and we're only on getting ready for page 3, so.
Yeah. So for the public transportation, transit and trails planning, and I have several notes myself for that. My suggestion for, well, I'll make an assignment since I'm a teacher, is that each of the committee members go through, read this, make your notes so that we can get to the core of the issues in our next meeting. And Melissa, would you share with us when our next meeting is? I know it's going to come up, but just as a refresher. Is it September 9th?
Yeah, I can do that. Yep. Ooh.
Oh, wait, how did I get to September? We haven't even gotten into August.
That's what I was going to say. What are you?
Never mind, I'm looking at a calendar.
August 12th. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have it on my list.
Oh, so this mini meeting is counting as our big meeting. Oh, no, we had our big meeting. Okay, never mind. Hush, I'm sorry.
Okay,
So many meetings.
so our next, for all the committee members, our next meeting is August 12th. And I believe we're starting at 5 o'clock. Is that accurate, Melissa?
That's been the normal start time is 5 to 8.
Okay. So 5 PM, August 12th.
I hope I'm still maybe out of the country, but Melissa can take my lead. She knows every word I'm thinking.
I'm thinking that's adequate time for everybody to do their homework.
Yeah, that's a month, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That said, let me go to public comment. So members of the community, if you have comments, particularly on what we've covered tonight, we would like to hear them. And if you will, raise your hand and I'll recognize you. And you have 3 minutes. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and articulated to specific concerns. Mr. Jacks, Bruce Jacks, I noticed you just opened yourself on video. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, I have comments and sometimes the way I ask the questions, sometimes I feel I get shut down or moved to another, told to do another time, but I'm just gonna lay it out there. As far as your transportation, as far as this meeting went, I'm more confused on it than I was before. Some of it just didn't really makes, and sometimes some of it I feel there's some prejudice going on as far as being against motorized vehicles altogether, whether it be electric or just motorized. I don't understand as far as being the transportation. Does this involve the forest, or is it strictly just the roads that we're looking at, talking about the main arteries here in Doney Park? So that, and you know, when I talk about the electric bikes, or does that include wheelchairs, handicapped people? Things like that haven't been brought up at all. So anyway, that's my comments and to the committee. And I do appreciate you coming up with a meeting that we're going to have in public, which would be a nice change.
Thank you, Mr. Jacks. And I'll respond quickly in that this section on transportation is 7 pages long, and we got to page 2.
Oh, okay.
A lot of your comments are going to come up, are going to be addressed in the remainder of our discussion on transportation.
I appreciate that. And it was several meetings ago, not several, but quite a few ago, that I did bring up some comments on that. And I was pretty much told the same thing. And it's been weeks, and then here we're finally getting to it. So
yeah,
I'll be open to it. I just those that are on the transportation that are very involved with it, I hope they have an open mind on it. Because even your pictures, even the picture that's showing right now, if this is, we're going to shut the woods off to us. These are off-road trails going up the hill.
That's not what's happening. What we were addressing tonight was only related to roads.
Okay.
So, you know, we haven't gotten to trails, we haven't gotten to bicycles, equestrian, motorized bicycles, etc. So that is coming forward.
Well, I hear you, but then I've heard comments being made towards that direction already. So.
Okay. So
just my feelings on it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Keep an open mind, everybody.
Other members of the community that would like to share a comment? Any other members of the community? Let me go to the committee. Final comments from the committee?
Brian, I'd like to share one thought.
Go
Big
ahead.
picture wise for our committee, I've been very thankful and appreciative of the fact that our committee has been working together for so long and so hard on our challenging task here. And I would like to encourage us to continue working cooperatively and publicly on our task. I think having separate side private meetings amongst committee members or things like that tend to block out some people from that information. And it's information we can all benefit from. So I would just like to encourage everyone to participate publicly and respect each other so that we can all be a part of this. Thanks.
So
I would like to make a comment here.
Go ahead, John.
Before we end up, one, I would like to thank Liz for her work. She's done a lot of hard work. And the second thing is that she also mentioned that we're creating an advisory document. And as such, it does not really institute protections per se. It does tell us how to implement those protections, which in reality exist in the zoning ordinance. And that is a very important aspect of it. And it is one that is taken quite seriously by staff at Community Development, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, John. Other committee members?
Go ahead, Bernice.
Oh, go ahead, Liz.
Okay, I was going to say, I would just like to suggest an agenda for our next meeting that we include word usage so everyone, the community and the community understand we're all on the same page of why we're not using imperative wordage or why we should use imperative wordage and what's the difference, and let's be on the same page for should, shall, and must. And I'd also like to have part of the agenda for the next meeting to try to make an effort to scrounge up anything that was talked of tonight or in the past, or if anyone knows of comments that they have personally received from other community members that they haven't shared or that they discussed maybe privately with them, that they voice those public concerns and comments that they have discussed with the community to the committee, that we have just like an open time to discuss public comments that we've heard, or answers to ones that people tonight have actually asked about, which I'm not going to be redundant about LU2, and about some trail issues. So something about, I don't know how to put it, but a part of the agenda to address public comments. And then also to just have a small part about representation of legal challenges. 3 things to the agenda, or put them all together, or.
Thank you, Liz. First of all, I think it was brought up last meeting, somebody else. In fact, was it you, Rob, that brought up a request to address the language issue at our next?
Yes, and we asked that that be at the next regular meeting, not in our mini meeting, because we wanted to focus this meeting specifically on the section we were working on.
So we now have, Rob had the original request, you're the second request, so that will be, I will ask that Melissa puts that on the agenda for next, whatever date it is, August 12th. Thank you, Liz. Bernice?
Did you say that you weren't going to be here August 12th?
Wait, speak up.
Liz, did you say you weren't going to be here August 12th and you want those agenda items?
Yes, I know I want to be here, but I think that I'm still going to be out of the country. It depends if we leave or not because of some issues with my husband's health. Okay, but we may be out of the country.
Okay. One of the things I appreciated Dave Wessel, his explanation that the zoning must change to follow the policies in this area plan. And when I hear that, oh, we're just an advisory, I thought, well, why did I waste the last 1.5 years? because I wanted to make a difference. And anyway, I appreciate him saying that, because we have a lot of power in this area plan. I think if we put in there that we wanted a penguin in every front yard, I think the zoning would have to change, if I'm not correct, right?
No, the zoning would not have to change. Someone would then have to suggest that zoning change, and it would have to be approved. But I like penguins.
Yeah, okay.
Now, if there were penguin statues, then, we got.
Okay, getting off the course, Brian. So you're saying, you always correct me.
He said zoning must
Bernice.
change to follow the area plan.
Okay, thank you. Other committee members?
I'd just like to respond to the other part of Bernice's comment. Trust me, Bernice, you are making a difference.
And I would like to bring up, I don't know if I'm going to be here on August 12th. I'm not sure, but I would like to submit my comments on land use to the entire committee, and then we can decide if we can add that to an agenda and talk about it.
Okay. Please note that, Melissa. Evelyn, do you have any comments?
I feel rushed still. I don't think we're going to complete this in time.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Sailor.
No, I do not, but I also wanted to say thanks to Liz for the hard work on this.
Thank you. You're so welcome.
Duly noted.
Good job.
Jim Clifford.
I'm good. I don't have any comments.
Okay. I'm looking, do I have everyone that was, John, did you share? You did. Dave Browning? Any comment? Okay. So I want to express my thanks to all of the committee and especially to all of the community members who are here. And by the way, I do want to I'll come back to Naomi in just a minute. I know that this is tough work. We're trying to find the concepts and then put those concepts into clear language. And that at times is real challenging. And so I appreciate the diversity of ideas and the willingness to work with each other. We may not always agree, but that's part of negotiating our way through to come up with the best plan that we can for the community. I would like to take just 1 minute and recognize Naomi Yazzie Sloan. Naomi works with Supervisor Begay. Naomi, would you like to share with us?
Yes, hi. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me on the meeting. Thank you to Melissa for sending information to me. And you guys are all doing a good job. I know this is a tough job for all the committee members. And you guys are all doing a good job, trying to, get things done, that set out for you. And along with that, trying to listen to, the public, the community. I mean, you guys have a tough task and just listening, especially tonight. And, some things that kind of went through my mind is that, with a lot of these comments, I'm not sure if, these comments or questions or concerns are reviewed, by the committee as a committee. So I'm thinking that maybe, I don't know, maybe set a day for some of these comments, just to discuss them. Not that you're gonna, make a decision, but, just to discuss them and maybe have the people that, have these questions, set one day, one meeting for them. And that way, at least, in your mind and in their mind and the public, they have been heard, and, whatever their issues are, have been heard. And, that was just something that kind of went through my mind this evening. But the way I look at it, you guys are all very professional people. I've seen meetings where, professionalism isn't there. And I think you guys are doing a really good job in, conducting yourself in these meetings. And I really appreciate that. And I think you guys are all doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. And please give our regards to Supervisor Begay.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
So let me go back to Melissa. I will reiterate, our next meeting is on August 12th at 5 p.m.
And there's no way that we could change it to the 19th, is there? Because Bernice is not going to be here. I don't think I'm going to be here. The 19th would not still be better. I guess I
won't
Hold on.
I won't be here.
Let me hear from other committee members. John Ruggles, does that work for you? John, you're muted. John is still muted. Rob, does the 19th work for you?
So Thursday, the 19th of August?
That's what's been requested.
I thought that would be our normal regularly scheduled meeting is the 19th.
It's the second Thursday, which is
the 12th. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
We're
Evelyn?
talking about the 19th instead of the 12th, right?
That is correct.
Gives
Because
everybody
Liz-
another week to do their homework.
Well, they've got to get it done then.
Well, it gives us another week maybe to get a couple of our people that are out of the country back. Anyway, 19th works for me.
19th works for Dave.
Yep.
Evelyn, does it work for you?
Yes, thank you.
Sailor?
Yeah, that I believe that should be fine, barring any major disasters. Hopefully, we'll be on it by then.
Okay. Jim Clifford?
Yeah, that works for me.
Any other committee members that I did not call upon?
I said that I would not be able to be here on the 19th. There's a possibility that I could be there on the 12th.
Okay.
Dang it. Okay.
Geez, what I'm trying to make sure of is that we have a quorum.
Right. I just want to be there because I'm on transportation, but if
The 26th?
Well,
oh my
that's
gosh,
really
that's way, that's too far.
Yeah, that's too far out there. I agree.
Give me a second. Let me just make sure. 22nd. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Could I ask a question? Melissa, have we made any progress with either of the supervisors about our missing members and being able to adjust our minimum quorum number?
I have not heard anything, Rob.
Naomi, that would be something you could help us with if you have an opportunity to share that with Supervisor Begay.
Okay, I think I did see something on that. I'll go ahead and I'll let her know.
And Naomi, would you be willing to contact Ariana, Supervisor Vasquez, and ask if Supervisor Vasquez has made a decision on a member who's not been showing up?
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
I can send them an email tomorrow. You're welcome.
So if we go on the 12th, Liz can't make it. If we go on the 19th, then Bernice can't make it.
You know what? I made an awful mistake. I'm leaving the end of August, not the end of July. I'm sorry. I will be here the 12th. Let's leave it on the 12th. I just looked at the calendar. I was thinking July. I'm leaving the end of August. Sorry, committee. What a ding dong. I'm just sorry.
So August 12th.
Yes. Bernice, you
All
can
right.
make that one, right?
Thank you.
I looked at the wrong month. I'm so sorry. Oh, my goodness.
I like that you
Melissa,
used the word ding dong. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I,
I'm not going there.
yeah, I might have a
Okay.
problem with growth, but with Veterans Court, because the guy who's normally in charge of it is out of the country.
Okay. Well,
I should be all done by the time we get to the meeting, though.
we'll hope that you can join us, Dave, even if it's late.
Yeah.
Melissa, any comments, anything that you want to share with the committee and the community?
Just to confirm then, you're going to meet August 12th, correct?
Yes,
That is
sorry,
correct.
yes. Duh.
At 5 p.m.
Thank you.
And, okay, one more thing, I'm sorry, the nag here. So we're going to put in the agenda, the word usage, and as the last Naomi said, can we make it a point to discuss if anyone has any public comments that we haven't addressed yet, like maybe some emails we should check that have come up, and then some emails that I have gotten, I can bring up. And if any other committee members have gotten some emails to them, and also the comments that you sent to all the committee members that I thought we were responding to with answers. If we didn't do answers, could we address them on the agenda? Somehow we've got to get these public comments, because she even noticed people are saying public comments are not being addressed, or her understanding was they're not being addressed.
I
So,
think that is a perception. I believe that Melissa has responded to the majority of them, but I'm not going to speak for her.
okay.
I would say,
Bring up land use, because most of those comments are on land use.
And we'll continue with, I want to get through the transportation, and then once we have the open house, we'll have more information and we'll see where we go from there, Bernice.
But could we have a part?
I'm not closing the door. I'm saying that I would like for us to get more information from the community at the open house.
I have a suggestion. If there is a list of these ones that may not have been received an answer, if we had that list, we could look at it. We don't have to discuss it at the next meeting. We just take the list and then work on it and then come back to it to decide what we want to do about it.
And I do want to note that Mr. Leroy said that he had submitted 6 questions. I don't think he's with us at this point, but I would like to see what those 6 questions were. So with that, anything else, Melissa?
So we can add that to the agenda next time we meet, the public comments and the 6 questions that he needed to question?
I'm not saying we put it on the agenda. I'm saying I'd like for us to get those via email or some other communication so that we can at least understand what it is that he's asking.
Okay, because the one about the Sheila Welch that said she sent it to a community planner, what was the gentleman she said that she sent it to?
Well,
and she said she never got a comment?
I believe that Melissa has documented all of this.
Oh, on the recording. I thought I wrote his name down. Hold on.
Don't worry about it, Liz.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Have a great week.
Brian.
Good night.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Melissa.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care. And Rob and Melissa,